All right, I see a little red dot. You see a little red dot?
Yes, you're recording.
We're recording. I want to say hi to everybody out there. Thank you for joining us for another After Two Beers. My name is Joel, and I am the co-owner and CEO of Forsyth's Brewing Company. And if you've watched some of our After Two Beers before, hopefully you know the format. If this is your first time, you're in for a treat. Tonight, depending on when you're watching, we have Richard Cox with us. Richard, I got to know him through the well-crafted initiative through UNCG, talking about the history of craft beer, initially in the Tribe, but now in you've expanded it to North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. But Richard, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and kind of what makes you tick.
Sure. So I do work at UNCG. My wonderfully vague title is Digital Technology Consultant.
Sounds very espionage.
Yeah, it's wonderfully meaningless. A lot of what I do is I lead a group of programmers, web developers, and database administrators on doing technology projects. I help researchers on UNCG's campus with their research. If there's some sort of technical aspect they don't understand or they want to be a part of, I'll work on those. And that can be anything from mapping projects to archaeology projects to I'm working on 2 civil rights projects right now. My own research at UNCG is 2, one of which you mentioned is Well-Crafted NC with 2 other people, David Gwynn and Aaron Larimore. And it is documenting the history of beer and brewing across the state. Both modern breweries such as yourself and Four Saints, but we've also pushed history of brewing in North Carolina back so far to 1756. And we're writing a book about triad beer history.
Wow.
What?
I didn't realize you were doing a book. That's really cool.
Yeah, we just signed that contract before the summer, and then, all of this happened. So
whatever.
Yeah. It wasn't intention. I can talk about the other side in a minute, but it's funny because they sent us, we had a publisher contact us asking, hey, would you like to write a book about triad beer history? I was like, funny thing, we actually have a grant right now. We're already doing all that work. So the research portion of the book was already happening and funded from that grant that you and I worked on. So amusingly, It kind of, now it's just writing the dang book and doing a lot of research still. So there's Well-Crafted. The other one I do is I'm the lead researcher on a project called the Digital Library on American Slavery, which is a couple of different projects, but the short version of that one is it's a project that brings together online public records, focusing on North Carolina, but public records from across the South that mention the names of enslaved people. Some of those documents are ones that we've that people have never actually seen before because they've been buried in a courthouse or whatever.
Right.
We were just actually earlier this year, we're honored. It was real honored to become officially a part of what the National Park Service considers the Underground Railroad. So this is the only virtual research facility that's a part of the Underground, is officially a part of what the National Park Service considers the Underground Railroad.
Really?
Yeah. That was I put in an application for it because it's an application process. It's called the Network to Freedom Project, and you can either be a part of that as a facility, which is like an archive, for example, a site, which would be a house or a tree or that sort of thing, or a program. Guilford College, of course, is already a member, and because the Quaker involvement in the Underground Railroad. But it's pretty awesome. Yeah. So that's professionally what I do, in short.
So you're writing the book, and you're a digital stop on the Underground Railroad.
Yes.
That's impressive stuff, man. And you've been on NPR talking about this too.
I've been on NPR. I've been on the local news. Yeah, it's it was neither of those were ever a plan.
Basically, what this means is I am out of my league in this conversation.
Oh no.
I mean, it's.
I don't know if you're out of your league and talking to me about beer. Let's be honest.
We could maybe
It's not a quiz.
We'll go down that. We'll go down that route at some point. So how did let's talk about beer. What are you currently drinking?
I am currently drinking in my Four Saints 3rd anniversary glass. Happy 5th. I am drinking Upper Road.
Upper Road,
which is one of my favorite beers.
One of or the favorite
beer? It's those are the eyes. It's the best beer.
That's all right.
I do have a funny story about it. It's actually how I discovered Four Saints. So this had to have been like in your first year, but I was with a friend at another brewery that will remain unnamed, and
not Voldemort's place. That's
not Voldemort's place, no. And coincidentally, we just got may have been Potter's Clay, but I want to say it was Upper Road. I would assume Potter's Clay. Anyway, and we're both also the friend like, this beer's great. And then realized it wasn't their beer. Of course, my friend was like, well, can you put it in a growler? And they were like, no, because, so we just wrote down the name, and then like the next day drove down to Asheboro. And
nice.
Yeah. So that's mine. Yeah. So the beer I'm drinking actually ties back in the way back when I found you all initially.
Very nice.
So yes, I love this beer.
And you're drinking it. You got cans of it, right?
Yes, 4 cans of it. I went down last week and got 4 cans of it and a crowler of That's No Moon, which is also it's a great summer. That's a great summer beer. That's a beer like if I'm like I know I'm gonna be doing a lot of lawn work. That's when I was like, I'm gonna have that one afterwards.
At some point, yeah, it's nice and light. Well, I'm glad you got those cans. We're actually out of the Upper Road cans right now. We still have it on tap, so you can get crowlers. But from a historical perspective, that is we called it Upper Road because that was the name of the road that the Scots Irish took through Randolph County. It was called the Upper Road. Yeah.
See, that's great because it's so many. We're going to talk about Four Saints all night. So many of your beer. I mean, so many of your beer. This goes into the well-crafted project, right? It's just how I can do this. So many of your beers are named after things local, and it's like if you just look at my 2 research projects, really what I'm doing is I'm looking at the South in the sense of place, right?
Right.
So looking at like Schmidley Bach, for example, and all of the ones that are named after either local personalities or the local space. I mean, it's really awesome. And there's actually a researcher at UNCG, grad student, who's looking at potentially doing his dissertation on that exact thing.
Wow.
How is the either the label art on beer or the naming of beers give a sense of place in what is Southern beer? So he's selling that to his dissertation committee, and knock on wood. Pretty interesting.
How do you sell that to a dissertation committee?
I don't know, and it's interesting given his department too, because it's not like the history department. It's so yeah. I mean, he has to talk about how he can actually take that and turn it into a book. Basically, it's not a book. I think he's in the GIS project. But the idea of taking that as a beginning place to talk about what is Southern beer and how it reflects Southern culture, which is an interest of mine. So I was very excited. And I hadn't thought of it from that angle. Like, let's use beer label art. And that sort of thing.
Well, if a kegger would help sell that dissertation project, I am.
So you can wheel it in to presenting.
I'm not legally binding ourselves to any type of thing. I'm just saying that I have a feeling that a place like ours and a place like Full Steam out in Durham with Sean. I think Yeah, even Haw River out in Saxbahaw. Those are just three that come to mind. And I mean, even Natty Greens and their connection to the things in Greensboro. I mean,
yeah, it's interesting.
We could have one heck of a field party to sell this dissertation.
Yeah,
I mean, just saying.
Well, and he'll be pulling on, if he can do it, pulling from the stuff that we've collected from breweries, right? I mean, label art and the interviews and things like that.
So and even and the not only the breweries that have been here for a while, but the I say younger breweries, like we're old farts in the industry.
It's a weird industry for that.
Well, I mean, right? I mean, a lot of the breweries in the industry right now are 6 years and younger, and when the majority,
you are old at 5. I mean,
we are. We're old at 5, which is wild to think about. Anyways, but that beer comes from place. That's certain. We had I think you've met Mac Watley.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when we were starting out, he sent me a document that was full of and I think I may have sent it to you. Full of like recipes. It was like tomato wine and like pawpaw beer and I mean, because it basically was just like, do you have something that has natural sugar in it? Here's how to ferment it and make it alcohol.
Did Aaron ever tell you about their cookbook collection and special collections that we have? So they have there's a cookbook collection. It's like Southern cookbooks from like 1700s. And at the time women were brewing the beer, so there's a lot of beer recipes that are exactly that sort of thing in it. And actually the people from Bull City came in looking up cider recipes right before everything closed.
Really?
So they're thinking about doing something. They were taking pictures and they were thinking of coming back, but 4 of them, including John, stopped by and spent the day digging through old cookbooks looking for cider recipes.
John's a lot of fun to talk to. Old cookbooks. I think we did a After 2 Beers with Jay Pierce. He's currently head chef, executive chef at Mazelle's in Winston. And when he was talking with us, I don't know if you watched it, behind him was this like ceiling to floor bookshelf that was full of Southern cookbooks.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he would probably enjoy that idea of being able to go in and look at all those cookbooks. And when we were talking, he said he was talking about how you can go online and you can find a recipe for anything these days. And you pull out, if you wanted to find a recipe for cornbread, you type in cornbread and there's 30 million examples of cornbread recipes, and and then you pull up one and you got to dig through 3 pages of story before you get to a recipe. He's like, but if you want a recipe, you go to a cookbook.
Yep.
Find a cookbook. You find that tattered cookbook that's sitting on the shelf somewhere. You pull that out and you use that, because there's a genuineness to it, because there's no trying to. It's just what somebody did on a regular basis, and then enough for it to make it to a book,
right?
The 1850s.
There's and one thing is it's talking about theirs in archives, it's open. You can come in and ask them, as you give them some notice, they can pull them. Anyone can look at them. Like you could let Aaron know, for example, you're interested in looking, and they'll have them out for you, and anyone and can come look for not just beer recipes, but weird food recipes and things like that. So there's all sorts of fascinating things in those books.
What's the weirdest food recipe you've ever actually made?
So
not just read this. You actually put the effort into it and made it.
So I wish I could remember the name of it. I'll dig it up. So there was there used to do this thing in the library is based on the cookbooks actually called Vintage Viands, which, sure. And what had happened is like a lot of these cookbooks are online now. So it's like dig through, find something hideous, make it. And people, of course, doing a lot of what you expect is like some sort of weird Jello thing. But I can't remember. I found something. I can't remember the name of it or what it was called or anything. But it basically, by the end of it, was some sort of cream cheese meatball thing, like Spam thing that I'd made. And and then this is an event where they put all these things out, and it's free. I think it may be free. I don't know. I wasn't involved with it other than making this ball of Spam cream cheese. I'm totally not making this. I will try to have someone dig it up for me. But no, the great part is, so they put this spread out of all these foods, and it's like, come and try the foods. And the gentleman who will remain nameless, who was then head of the English department at UNCG afterwards, was like, did you make this? I'm like, well, yes. He's like, this is amazing. And I was like, really? I'm glad you like it. So yeah, that was it was not what I was looking for, because I was like, I want to find something that's so stereotypically 1970s.
Yeah.
But I found this thing. It was basically this deviled ham. It's like a deviled ham ball that it was amazing. I'm glad I did.
So you're saying that you were also saying it was delicious.
I'm saying I was told it was delicious. And who am I to judge?
Right. I mean, when it comes to a matter of taste, it's,
exactly
to each their own.
Yeah. So there was a number of things there, but that was like, it was interesting. It was fun. So if there was a weirdest thing I've cooked, other than having to cook for my dog these days, that's about it.
Yeah. What kind of dog?
My dog Daisy is a mutt. She's a Shih Tzu poodle mix. She's currently 15 with a myriad of end-of-life health issues that I'm easing her through.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, earlier tonight, like actually during the break, I was hand feeding her some chicken so she would actually eat something.
Oh.
But yeah, she's been with me. I've known her longer than I've known most people.
Yeah.
So yeah, taking care of her.
Dogs are important.
Dogs are very important.
They are very important. Well, that speaks a lot to you as a person. I mean, it does. I mean, what's that?
I said just dogs. She's something else.
Yeah, there's something else. So that is like I want to keep talking about dogs right now, but I think if we keep doing that, we're gonna start crying or something. We've had a couple of years. So
yeah, I've had a couple of beers. I don't need to talk about. I mean, we were at the emergency room. I was at the emergency room with her Saturday till 3 a.m.
What?
And you ask, well, with all these quarantines, how do you do that? Well, you have to stay in your car. So it's like curbside. So, and it's even like when I had to take her to my normal family vet, right?
Yeah.
So you pull the car with your dog, and you have to have an appointment. You call in, and then they come out and get your dog or cat or whatever, take it in, and then you wait in your car. So yeah, so it's, for the family vet visit, which she has to have plenty of those right now, but what's happening, right? So you're sitting there, and it's like you're gonna wait in the car for longer than you want to be there, but we were in the car from like 9:30 till about 2:30 in the morning.
Jeez.
Mostly waiting. She was having upper respiratory issues. I'll leave it at that. But, just waiting and not knowing, and like with any waiting process. But again, but there's that whole extra layer of, with everything that's going on, how do they do that, right? And it's this curbside, you stay in your car thing.
And they're doing everything that they can to make that dog or pet, regardless, comfortable. But obviously, there's no conversation about here's why she's not coming in or he's not coming in. It's just, I mean, that adds a whole nother layer of
Yeah. My
concern
entire
and heaviness.
yeah, yeah. Other than the actual act of the vet tech coming and picking the pet up and taking the pet inside, your only interaction is over the phone. So I'm trying to explain what I was seeing earlier in the night, for example, over the phone. And so there's this whole query about like what medicine she's on and what was happening and all this. And it's all, you don't have that face-to-face interaction, right? At the end of the night, they tell me over the phone what's going on. They take my credit card and everything over the phone, and then the dog comes out and we go away. Really strange, really surreal, especially.
But because I mean, I having the experience of trying to explain something to somebody over the phone recently, and realizing how much I was using my hands to explain something.
Yeah.
Like how fast something was happening, and then to try to translate that into words, and that the inability to see the person's face as we're talking, because I mean that whole it goes into the study of body language, and that what is actually being said versus what is actually being transferred. I mean, it plays a lot when you can't see that. I think we've become so used to that because we do things like FaceTime, we do things like whether it's Skype or Google Meet or Zooms now. Zoom. We get to see like I'm doing right now, like
Well, I mean, my giant hands that keep moving towards the screen. To back up what you're saying, I was actually reading or looking at a thing recently. So, they're magic. There are people who have real trouble doing what we're doing right now because they rely on a lot of visual cues that are gone. So when they're doing Zoom, they have a lot of difficulty maintaining focus because it's me and you, we're looking at our faces, we're reading each other's reactions. And if you rely on hands a lot, for example, or body language even more, it really apparently stresses people out a lot and wears them down.
Because I mean, right now, I mean, you and I are having this conversation, but for the most part, our heads and this part of our bodies is fairly still.
Yeah,
there's
I have a rock. Right? It comes from the phone because when I'm on the phone, I never answer my phone. I don't talk on the phone, but when I have to, I pace.
Yep.
I pace constantly. And I realize that when I'm doing this, if I'm not careful, I end up rocking like this. It's the same thing. It's like my brain thinks I'm on the phone, I think. So I start doing that weird motion thing.
Yes, I understand that. Saying I do the same thing. If I'm on the phone, someone calls and I see the number and like, oh, I need to take this, or maybe I should take it. I'm up and I'm walking around. So I totally get that. Right now I can't rock in this chair because Estella likes to ride in this chair, and the spinning is enough. Like she does what she does, and she does what every kid does when they like, oh, that chair spins and it spins easily, and all I've got to there's a table and all I've got to do is use this like a merry-go-round and just push myself around. So I removed the ability for this particular chair to rock because I don't need her to spin and recline and catapult herself.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's gonna launch somewhere at that point. Yeah. And it's a recipe for it.
It's a recipe for an extraordinary.
Which I'm sure she would find to be fun, but
maybe depends if she hits something. I mean, there. And it depends on what level. It depends on. Let's call it what it is. It depends on how much candy she's had that day. Because there's, or how many moments and minutes of TV she's been able to watch, or how many I'm willing to promise her to be just. It's okay. look, we'll go watch She-Ra. We'll go watch She-Ra. How about that?
New season of She-Ra coming, by the way.
A new one?
Get her ready. Yep, get her ready for it.
That was like season, what, 5?
Probably. I can't remember. I was late watching it, and I just like sat down and just like pounded through it like a giant movie.
Well, it is good. It is good. If you haven't watched She-Ra on Netflix and you're avoiding it because you're like, oh, it's a cartoon, or oh, that's a female character, or whatever, it's good.
It's really good.
And we watched the first 2 seasons with Estella when she was, I mean, now at this point, I mean, she's 6, so it was probably when she was 4, and we would watch through it. But she's at a stage right now where she wants to watch the same things over and over again. And it's a matter of exactly. Yeah, it's a matter of comfort, it's a matter of safety. So her favorite She-Ra episode right now is the one where they introduce Entrapta.
Mm-hmm.
That's her favorite episode. She will watch that one over and over and over again. And Kristen and I are like, yeah, but there's like new seasons and the story is continued and there's new princesses, and I was like, don't care. I want to watch Entrapta. And we can't figure out why. Like
has she watched past that?
She has watched past it, and so she's seen different episodes, and so she knows, she's watched the storyline. But like there was it was way before all this happened. But we realized that we had there was like 4 or 5 episodes left in like the 2nd or 3rd season, and we sat down and we watched one. And Estelle went, can we watch another one? And Estelle and Kristen and I were in it. We're like, yes. And Estelle's like, yay! And she watched the next one, and she's like, can we watch another one? We're like, yes. So we binged like 4 or 5 episodes, and Kristen and I were like, wow, this is really good. This is really amazing. And Estelle's like, can we watch the Entrapta one now? Like, did you not see what happened?
Yeah, I was asking because without giving away for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, things happen with her character, and I was just
we haven't got that. She's a great character, and it's gonna be. I'm excited to see Kevin Smith's version of He-Man.
Yeah, me too.
Yo, that's a lie. I can read that through Zoom.
I mean, interesting. Interesting is a very neutral word. I'm curious to see what comes out of it.
What are your hesitancies?
I don't really have. Well, I mean, see, I have that look you see me do all the time when I start thinking, and I look off to the side.
That's all right.
It's more a thing with like. I'm kind of a neutral on He-Man generally. I know people love He-Man. I watched He-Man, but I was never like He-Man. I love Trapjaw, but people Trapjaw is awesome. It's more of a Kevin Smith issue for me than anything else, because I think Kevin Smith's done some pretty interesting stuff, but at the same time, with this thing, he's such a fanboy. I'm sort of like, what are you really going to bring to it that's different? And I'm not saying he won't bring anything to it. It's just you start getting sometimes when a fan of a thing is doing it, you instead get something that's a lot more about, a fan film or something like that, than you get something that's actually creative. So I wonder. That's pretty much it. It's not like I'm dreading it. It's just like I can't say I'm excited either. So.
No, I totally get that. No, I get where you're coming from. Because there's a difference between somebody who is a fan of the character or a fan of the story and somebody who's a fanboy.
Yep.
Absolutely there is a complete difference between that. And I had not thought about it in that respect. I looked at it from what he was able to do with Green Arrow when he did the DC comic run with Green Arrow.
Sure, and he did a really good Daredevil. He did a Daredevil run that was really good, except he kind of copped out on someone he killed in it, I thought, but that's a whole other.
So the idea, I mean, when you can get somebody who can take, and because it goes back to what we were one of the things we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
The idea of taking a character, regardless of how big and grandiose their mythology is,
Right.
or their power, or their the personality,
Mhm.
and to be able to focus in on a story about their character, right?
Right.
And so for somebody to take us, a character, a character like Green Arrow, which is to any DC fans out, he's Robin Hood.
He shoots
I mean,
arrows. I mean,
he's Hawkeye. I mean,
it's Hawkeye. Yeah.
yeah,
Same thing.
and to create a genuine story out of it, to create something that, he's not a grandiose godlike character. He doesn't have this, the background like Batman does. It's just he's a guy
Yeah.
that he's Robin Hood, and to give
Yeah.
a story that people care about, like that's kind of where I got excited from it, because I think Kevin
Yeah.
Smith has that capability, but I see 100% where you're coming from.
Yeah. And like I say, he's done some stuff that I really enjoy, but he's also done some stuff where I'm like, "Ooh, maybe."
I got to get a bottle opener. Give me 1 second.
Yes, sir.
They're never too far away.
What are you drinking?
Well, now
Yeah,
I think in our initial email conversation, we had talked about doing some barley wine.
I just wanted you to have the barley wine to see what happened.
So I've got a double barrel bottle here. Probably we've got one on tap right now, the double action,
which is
which is also another barley wine. So the double action was aged in Feigning Goat rye whiskey barrels. The one we have on tap right now, because we wanted to emulate the Revolver cocktail. So a Revolver cocktail's got it's got the bourbon in it, so we've got the rye whiskey, and then it's there's a little bit of coffee, and there's a little bit of orange bitters that goes along with it. But the double barrel, which is the one we did first, or bottled up first, was aged in 2 different barrels, and it was a port barrel and a cognac barrel.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we had them bottled up in 12-ounce bottles, and this may be my last one.
Well, it's
If Kristen's watching, sorry, babe.
Cheers.
Oh, and I have this really, really kick-ass bottle.
Yeah, nice.
Koozie. I mean,
koozie.
that's.
It was like the cover of the Cure album mixed up.
Why not? So,
yeah, I really like your barley wine. I like that previous barley wine you did. Its name eludes me. It was really caramelly, and
that's this one. We've only done 2 barley wines.
But that must be that one. That was such a smooth barley wine. It was dreamy.
We didn't do it intentionally. It's just how it happened. One was called double barrel, one's called double action.
There you go.
But because we were doing the Revolver cocktail, and there was already a beer out there called Revolver. There was already a beer out there called something, and so Andrew's like, "Well, there's double action Revolver." We're like, "Let's do it."
Aha. Well, you're a cocktail man anyway.
I do enjoy cocktails.
Yeah. Because I think we've talked whiskey before.
I do enjoy some good whiskey. Sometimes a little more than maybe I should.
Do you have a cocktail you recommend?
I'm an old-fashioned guy. I mean, it's straight up like a genuinely made, well attended to old-fashioned to me is the epitome. Now, it's not too sweet. It's not overly fruity. And if I look at the bartender and say, keep the cherry out of it, they're like, I got you. Yeah, old fashioned is that's my drink of choice. I mean, I like to dabble and have some fun, and there's some really amazing creative things out there, but that's it. What about you? You got a cocktail?
cocktail person. Like I'm a
No.
whiskey person. I like bourbon. And I'm not saying they're the same thing. Sorry, Tennessee and Kentucky. No, but I'm very much more a just give it to me on the rocks. And I
Do
will
you have a
have it.
current favorite?
Do I have a current favorite? I do not. I do have a bottle of actually the Fisher's whiskey from downtown Greensboro. Yeah. And
Yes.
I think I talked about that Christmas one of theirs.
Yes.
Cinnamon one, that was good. Yeah, so I do have a bottle of their whiskey. Haven't had their gin yet,
That's do it. And you might as well go get their vodka there too.
though.
And what
Do the
Andrew
laws allow me to do all that at once
just,
now?
I don't know if you legally can at this point, but walk in, walk out, then go to the store. But what Andrew and Bill are doing there is absolutely fantastic. They're single malt Fisher's whiskey. They may have a rye version. The Christmas version was their Christmas version. So it's not. It's too cinnamony for me. There's just too much cinnamon. I know there's people that enjoy that. It's not my favorite, but I get it for the season.
Right, exactly.
But their gin is called Emulsion, and I hated gin up until I had that one.
Oh, wow.
It is tremendous. And their vodka is called Tiny Cat, and it is one vodka that I could easily take that, put that in a glass, put an ice cube in it, and enjoy it. Done.
There you go. Yeah.
It's just they're doing some top notch stuff over there. I mean, they're just how they're still in as small of a space as they are and doing what they're doing right now. They're and they're good people. They're a lot of fun to talk to. They're a lot of fun to just stop by and just chat with. But the product that they're putting out too is it's happening right in downtown Greensboro.
Yeah, it's great.
So we're gonna go here's where they complete there's no segue. Bam! Here's what's gonna happen. Boom! I told you it was coming. I told you it was gonna come earlier than it is. But because I don't have any way to segue from talking about cocktails to this.
Now people are excited. They're gonna
think it's something. They're gonna think it's something major, and it is. I mean, there's probably a number of people that are watching right now that have some opinion on this, and if they don't have an opinion on this, they will. Earlier in our, hanging out, having the 2 beers, which again, if you're still watching this and not realizing that Richard and I had a couple beers together prior to this and had some conversations, we started talking. We won't tell you where we started talking. We started getting.
We remember.
We only remember. We got into talking about comic books. Richard is also an artist. He does some comic book art. I've seen some of the things you did with like Thor, and I think you've done some Wonder Woman, maybe a whole lot of stuff. So not only is he a talented historian, and I do say talented because he's got an eye and an understanding for what makes history come alive.
Thank you.
But he also has an eye and a talent for making lines and color come alive. He does that with his art. So he's really into comic books, into those types of things, which I totally get, and there's nothing wrong with it. So there's
more. Talking about Green Arrow a minute ago. So
what's that?
You're the one who started talking about Green Arrow a minute ago.
Oh, so yeah, right. There's more of us out there and I mean, everybody's starting to realize that they can let that flag fly. In our conversation, we were talking about comic books, and we were talking about the MCU, because you have to, at this point, you have to talk about the MCU. That's the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the uninitiated. And talking about this, things like the arcs with Thanos and the what is coming next, and we were talking about who the next big bad should be, because there needs to be a next big bad. I mean, they obviously have a series of movies that are ready to come out in now 2021, 2022,
Yeah.
which is wild to say. But we were talking about, we both agreed that the next big bad would need to be, go ahead, you do the reveal there. Need to
Yeah,
be,
it has to be Doctor Doom.
has to be
Has to
Dr.
be
Doom.
And he has to be like better than everyone around him. You know, I mean,
Why do you
he has
say
to win basically as far as
so in your opinion, why does it have to be Dr. Doom? Why does it not need to be, why shouldn't it be anybody else? I mean, now the X-Men's here, we can have Apocalypse, why, with the I mean,
sure.
Mr. Sinister, I mean, again,
I mentioned Galactus earlier.
Galactus, yes,
Yeah.
Galactus is there. Why Dr. Doom, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, he's one of those characters where he could be the hero.
Hmm.
There's a great, we're going to deep dive. There's a great graphic novel that came out many years ago. It was actually written by Roger Stern and drawn by Mike Mignola, who did Hellboy for people who don't know. And it was a team up with Doom and Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange to go to hell to get the soul of Doctor Doom's mother from Mephisto. And that book specifically really colored a lot of my thinking about Doctor Doom in some ways. He's actually like loved by the people in the country he rules.
Latvia.
Exactly. He's loved by them. He'll go to any ends to achieve his. He could be a hero.
Yeah.
But he's cocky. Is really what it comes down to. In any room that arguably Reed Richards is not in, he needs to be the smartest guy there. He's gonna know he's the smartest guy there and act like it, but he is going to be the smartest guy in the room. And to have someone with the pathos of a character like that is he will go to hell to fight for the soul of his mother. And damn you if you get in his way.
Right.
But that megalomaniacal side of him that comes out of just hating Reed Richards is what makes him a villain. I mean,
yeah,
he's right sometimes. And so there's all of this, like, I mean, and the allegories you could pull in, because I think the best science fiction is allegory, that you could create with someone who is the ruler of a country. How you could play on whatever your political bent is, how you could play on politics or events in the world using that has possibilities.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been woefully mistreated in movies so far. Woefully mistreated. And he's one of the smartest guys out there. And yeah, I mean, he out-techs Iron Man, and he's smarter than Iron Man. Everyone loves these guys, and he's like the guy, as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, Darth Vader is partially based off Doctor Doom, if we're coming down to it. I mean, what is Darth Vader? Yeah, Darth Vader, but the man in the mask with the cape. I mean, there's all these other influences. I know there's all these other Kurosawa influences on Darth Vader, so don't even go there with me. I'm not talking to you. Once you start talking about Star Wars, it's going to happen. And trust me, I know Star Wars. But Dr. Doom, Jack Kirby, Doom and Kirby were big influences on George Lucas, and it's easy to draw a straight line from Dr. Doom to Darth Vader. So if you really want to just go fanboy it that way, there would be no Darth Vader without Dr. Doom. So why would you not have him as your Doom? When you have someone that smart, that cool looking, that intimidating when he's done right, and that suave.
Right. Yeah.
Why would you not do it? As opposed to, random really powerful, megalomaniacal, want to rule the world bad guy. I mean,
Yeah.
you can have someone who has a good reason to do it because he's smarter than everyone else, and they're screwing everything up. So why not do it?
Which is, I mean, hearing you put it that way, I mean, it. I mean, at that point, it's almost a parallel to Thanos. The idea of, there's a smarter way to do this, and his way was eradicating 50% of the universe.
Yeah.
But I will say, before we get back to Doctor Doom, you gave me an idea, and whether it's a good one or bad one, we're gonna find out. But I'm going to attempt to put together an after two beers with you and at least 3 or 4 other people that are the in my opinion, for me, in my world, like the Star Wars people. I think I have you guys have a couple beers, and then I'm gonna just throw out really controversial questions. And
God, we're gonna fuck.
And I'm gonna sit back, and we're just gonna listen. We're gonna watch this. We're gonna watch it go down. We're gonna see who pulls out the lightsabers, and we're gonna see who pulls out the mask, and that's a whole other thing. That's another thing, and
just make a note, and we'll.
Yeah, the note's already made. So if you're watching this and you think that would be a good idea, give us a thumbs up. But your explanation of Doctor Doom, that the whole the villain who could be the hero, like those guys are the villains that make the best. They're the ones that make the best villains.
You can relate to them on some level.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Thanos was great, and Thanos is great. And you can see where he's coming from. The Infinity War is really his movie, right? I mean, he's the hero. The heroes are the bad guys. But you can see where he goes off the rails and the crazy at the same time.
Yep.
So you lose that ability to sort of follow that through.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
No, and that's where I think a lot of like looking at DC and looking at a number of the villains that they have.
Yeah.
I think of like the Penguin. Like I can't relate to the Penguin.
Right.
Like I can't. Like the idea of somebody like the Joker who I'll perfectly honest, like not well versed in his comic character, and can't speak to the mythos built there, other than and the things that built on the idea that we're all, and this comes from the movies as well. We're all one bad day away from.
Right.
And so the idea that this guy had his one bad day, and it just twisted things, and that has a real human component to it. I mean, a real kind of understanding, and in our superhero movies rely on that villain, because if that villain is not relatable, if that villain is not somebody who could be me or could not be somebody I know, it doesn't matter who the hero is. There's got to be something there, and I think Doom gives that. Whether we're the smartest person in the room or not, there's just this guy who has the capacity in every way, shape, and form, just like you said, to be the guy that fixes things.
Yeah, interesting question with Doom, and I wonder if they dealt with this in comics or not. I don't know. Would be if there were not a Reed Richards for him to be angry with for whatever reasons, would Doom be a hero? Because it all goes back to hating Reed Richards, quite frankly. I mean, from his perspective. So if there were never a Mr. Fantastic, if he had never had an explosion in his face,
what do you become?
Yeah,
it's like a what if.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I don't know if they dealt with it, because that would be a great what if comic, but they probably have. But yeah, I mean, and so that makes him interesting to me.
And that's so the other question that was posed to Richard here to think about was if they put Doom into the movies, and if anybody, and by the way, if there's anybody out there who's watching this and who thought they were coming to hear us talk about things of significant matter, understand that you were wholly wrong. We're talking about comic books and movies at this point because we all need the escapism.
And goodness knows we can go left any minute now.
But if you had the choice, if you were the casting director, if you got the call, who would be your current and in current situation Dr. Doom choice to play Dr. Doom?
John Hamm.
John Hamm. What?
Exactly. Because
I love it. No, I love it.
Because John Hamm, first off, he has that comedic side that's just amazing. That could work with the lighter Marvel stuff. But he's also a really good, solid actor. Yeah. He's also kind of square-jawed. But there's a specific story about the creation of the character of Doom that I think about with that. And it's so Jack Kirby created him, as Kirby did everything as far as I'm concerned. And of course, Doom wears that mask, and he's disfigured underneath it because of an accident. Blah blah blah. And everyone likes to draw, like, you look at his eye and you see all this like gooey skin hanging in there.
Right.
So someone asked Kirby, it might have been at a Comic-Con, I don't remember. And he's drawn the picture of this. It's like, what does Doom look like under that mask? And Kirby, and this also totally is like gets to Doom for me. Kirby said, under that mask, he is the most beautiful man you have ever seen or never seen. But because of that accident, he's got a single small scar above one eyebrow. And that's it.
That's it.
Yep. And that ruined, and again, it gets back to Doom as a character, right? That ruined that perfection, that nihilism that's in him. And he drew a picture of like him doing, like, taking the mask off, and but of course everyone else ran with this horrible zombie
figure man. Yeah, it's like crazy.
But think about Kirby's idea and what that says about the character and where he goes. So imagine someone with the range of someone like John Hamm, who looks like John Hamm, playing a role like that with that single scar that's driven him beyond.
That any quote unquote normal person would be like, this is just a thing.
Yeah, I have a scar through this eyebrow right now.
Yeah, there's no reason for me to.
I'm not a megalomaniac. But
Theoretically.
So, but I mean, it gets into some of the stuff we just talked about broadly about characters before, comics or otherwise, whereas like, the easy way out is this crazy dude behind an iron mask that's got melted face, but it says so much more. It's so much more character driven to say he is actually brilliant, beautiful, but he's got that one character flaw.
That just causes all.
And he's defined by that one. He defines himself.
Right. Yes.
So, anyway. Jack Kirby. I don't take any credit for that. Jack Kirby.
That's and that's.
I feel that would be a little left field choice, but
I love it. I mean, I had not thought about him.
Yeah,
but that makes it does. Because you're right, from the, especially from the MCU, you've got to have a with that particular character, you've got to have somebody who's got to have some comedic timing, to be able to play. I mean, you look at Loki, and I don't remember the actor's name who plays him. I'm not going to try and remember. Thank you.
Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah. He's got the capability of delivering these lines in a way and with some repartee that makes it seem natural. But you also know his character is not the greatest the moral character that you should be rooting for, but in
Right.
some ways you're like, I think this guy's got something. I think
Yeah.
he's, you know. So there's definitely, I think there's certainly a lot to that. But yeah, Ham
Yeah.
that's a good suggestion.
I
I
mean,
like
he could
that.
be. Ham can play a statesman, and people forget that Doctor Doom rules a country. I mean,
Right.
he's a statesman. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
yeah.
And that the idea of like what got me into Captain America, like way like early '90s. There was a series called Streets of Poison. It
Uh-huh.
was like a 6 or 7 comic series where it was all focused on. I mean, and we're talking like early '90s, so they're very very topical. So they were talking about a street drug called ice, and
Mm.
like Cap had a couple of his uh, lackeys is the wrong word because he's a good guy. His
Associate.
associates who got wrapped up in ice, and then there's this pivotal scene where they're like, "Hey, but you became Captain America because of a drug,
Yeah.
because of the super soldier serum. That's a drug." And he gets Steve Rogers gets the super soldier serum taken out of him, and he goes out and continues to fight against Crossbones and Bullseye and Kingpin and all these other guys without the super soldier serum. And I remember like being as a kid, like that was a significant moment. It was like this, here was this guy who was made because of something and decided to bring himself down to our level, for lack of a better term. And it made it relatable. And um, all the villains that he was fighting were all relatable because he's Captain America.
Right.
It's nobody. It was just people with skills, not necessarily amped, not super powered.
Right.
And the idea of thinking about it, like him going against Doctor Doom, with it's just like that ain't gonna happen. Like Doctor Doom would destroy him. Like
you're talking about, because I'm sort of with you that Cap, along with Wonder Woman, are probably my favorite heroes. And there was a story, and the comic book dorks listening to this are going to know exactly the story I'm talking about. A Daredevil story written by Frank Miller called Born Again.
Mm-hmm.
And Cap is in it. And there's a couple of scenes in it that, even though Cap's a supporting character, define him for me. And one of them is like the Avengers show up, and he does this. Frank Miller does this film noir kind of thing where he describes them, and he mentions Captain America. So there's a fire, and Thor is causing it to rain.
Yeah.
And so, but being described from Daredevil's perspective, and he's basically, if you cut it down to it, he's a guy who punches people in tights, right? So he describes Captain America, a soldier with a voice who could command a god, and does. Which, right?
Wow.
So you have that, and there's another scene later in that where Cap is the U.S. government / military, without getting into the story too much,
Right.
trying to convince him to go and do something. And they have, purposefully knowing Captain America was coming in, draped the office with American flags and memorabilia everywhere, assuming he's this jingoistic person. And so they're giving him this whole spiel, dressed in full military gear, and they're saying at one point they say something like, question is loyal. Like, what are you loyal to, son? And they call him son, which has all those built-in things. And he's like, and he's this, and the other one was not a paraphrase. This one I'll paraphrase, but he says something along the lines of, "I'm only loyal to one thing, and that's the dream." So when you combine, I mean, Captain America. Another character that's really, he gets underplayed a lot, but not in the movies. Winter Soldier is an amazing movie that gets right to Captain America for me.
I'm gonna have to watch that again this weekend.
Yeah,
It's gonna have
I'll
to.
try to dig out a copy of Born Again for you to read since you like Cap.
Yeah, I'm
It's not
not.
a it's not a Captain America book at all, but it's one of the most interesting handlings of Captain America. Because he actually, it's interesting because the villain in it, one of the villains in it is a guy named Nuke who shows up, I think, and he may show up in Punisher TV show or something. I can't remember, but he's got an American flag painted on his face.
Okay.
And he takes drugs. I mean, there's a parallel that's being drawn there, right? But
Right.
he's a Vietnam era veteran. God, if I'm remembering the book. Point is, he was a super soldier working for the government. So that you immediately have this dude from World War II and this more modern idea of a super soldier, and
they don't jive.
How do you do it? But Cap has empathy for him, right? I mean, because he's Cap. So what happens there? And it's not even the main part of that story. So I'm going off on a ledge.
I mean,
Captain America. One of my few cherished possessions, which, I have a room full of monster toys. So I say I have a few cherished possessions. Is I have a page of Captain America comic book art that Jack Kirby drew.
Wow.
So it's like, and it's not because of all these other things, because that combination of Kirby and Captain America and what that artist and that character mean to me.
Yeah.
All the reasons said and pushed together in that one thing. Anyway, Cap and Kirby.
Cap and Kirby. I mean, that's one.
I've never worn a Captain America costume on video like some people I know.
Well, yes, that has happened. I did not expect it to go that way. Yeah, well done.
Thank you,
sir.
I had to save me.
Well, that was I don't know where to go from there. I'll say this and then we'll jump into that. In the MCU, two of my favorite scenes, whether they're biased or not, came because of Cap. And they both came from the same movie. I'll tell you about it later. That I'm not yet willing to give spoilers on, but when Kristen and I saw it in the theater, it happened, and I just started unintentionally, not really thinking about it. I just started hitting her leg like this. I was like, "Oh, just wait." Like, and once it happened, like I grabbed hold of her leg and I started apparently squeezing really hard. There was a lot of preteen teen emotions, like, and then transforming into the idea of becoming the ideal. And
it's being a Captain America fan in a world of Batman fans is basically what you're describing.
Yes, I like that. That's really good. Oh my cow! I might need to watch both of them. But yeah, the Captain America suit, that was the BA put out an all call to we're looking for people for the American Craft Beer Week, and I saw a post from Jasmine Bamlett, who we've done an After Two Beers with, saying, "Hey, if you're a North Carolina brewery and you want to do this, here's this thing." And so Andrew, there was 4 or 5 of us from Four Saints that sent in something, and we sent it in, and there was we didn't hear anything. And yesterday on Twitter, I saw that we had a bing. We're not superbly accurate or active on Twitter, and so I opened it up and it's like, oh, the BA tagged Four Saints in American Craft Beer Week. That's really cool. That's awesome. And then I went back to the original post. It was like, oh, there's that video they were talking about. oh, one of us made it. Let's see who made it. And we pressed play, and yeah, and then there I was towards the end of my blow up Captain America suit, which was my Halloween costume. Which, so Estella, who's my 6-year-old daughter, wanted to be Captain Marvel for Halloween because she had an absolutely kick-ass costume and had wrist things that they lit up because Captain Marvel shoots fire from her hands. And Kristen decided she wanted to be Carol Danvers.
Sure.
And so she had the USAF T-shirt, and she that version. And so I was like, well, I've got to be a Marvel character. And if they're gonna be two versions of Captain Marvel, then I need to be another captain. So I'll be Captain America.
Yeah.
And I waited and waited and waited and waited, because what I've learned from my daughter when it comes to Halloween costumes, she changes her mind immediately.
Yes.
And so I waited and waited and waited to the last possible moment, and I was like, okay, now I'm going to get the Captain America costume. It's going to look legit, and I'm going to feel like a badass, and I'm going to be so stoked. And I'll skip a little bit on the costume so I can get a really decent shield. We're going to do the whole and then waited a little too long. And everything I went to was like 3 weeks. 7 weeks, it just basically got too long. So the only thing I could get in time was the blow-up suit. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna be Captain America in the blow-up suit, and it worked. It was fun.
Yeah, there's something kind of cool and old school about that, though, right?
Oh, it absolutely no.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely 100% right, because like what I didn't wear in the video is the mask. And when we put the mask on, one of the ears, I guess it would be the flags, our feathers, like the little feathers thing. One of them sticks up like this, the other one sticks out like this.
That's drunk Captain America.
drunk Captain America, or like tick, like one of the like. And then, so I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And and what the VA said for the video was, be ridiculous, have fun, just whatever. And that's the most ridiculous thing I own. And so I was like, why not? I didn't think they would choose it, because I thought there might be some kind of like copyright infringement issue. But apparently not. So
what did everyone else do? First off, it's awesome they picked 4 Saints. I mean, that's cool. The state. But
yes.
What did everyone else do for it? Do you know? I mean, everyone else at Andrew and everyone else at 4 Saints.
I don't know, actually. The only person that knows, the only person that knows what everybody else did is Donnie, who he's one of our bartenders and he's our community manager right now. And the idea was, put your video together so that Donnie was going to take care of it. So Donnie right now, if he's watching this, he's the only one that knows what Andrew sent and what Charlie sent. I know what Kristen sent because I was here when that happened. And if anybody else sent anything. So I don't know. We don't know how many North Carolina breweries sent anything. But there was like 3 Hawaiian breweries that were showcased, which was interesting. And how the BA made their choices. But regardless of all those things, like it's neat. It's neat to be this small brewery in the center of North Carolina, in a small city, town, whatever you want to call it. And, because somebody was willing to be absolutely ridiculous.
We've totally come full circle back to beer from Captain America. It's amazing.
We can do it. We can do it.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna call it at that. We've been talking. You and I have been talking for a while. We did not get into here's summarization of things we didn't talk about.
Oh dear.
And if you ever happen to catch Richard at 4 Saints, number one, buy him a beer. If he's with Erin, buy her a beer. Yes, do that, both of them. But Richard grew up in Thomasville. He is you heard him mention earlier. He has got a closet full or room full.
A room.
Okay,
Full?
room full of Japanese monster toys based off of the show Ultra Q and
Yep.
Godzilla and
Things.
and the way he described that show was like live action Twilight Zone, fairy tale, monster kind of stuff. Got me really you got me interested in it. The way you described it to me earlier. But what's that?
No, I'm keeping quiet because I could go on about describing that show forever. I mean, it's mid 1960s. It is like a combination of Japanese kaiju movies and the Twilight Zone. And, so you're going to get giant monsters walking through cities, but you're also going to get fairy tales and just weird shit. In black and white, with there's even a voiceover at the beginning and end about this world. There's something wrong with this world, and yada yada. And you get all the sorts of interesting, really strange creatures that you get in Japanese sci-fi that you really do not get anywhere else. I mean,
Right.
If you look over here, we do giant bugs. Basically, if you go over there, they have monsters made out of purses, and they have monsters made out of XY. I mean, it's the creative genre over there that you don't get anywhere else.
A purse monster.
Totally. I mean, his head is a purse with a zipper. It's the money monster we were talking about earlier.
The money monster. Okay.
Yeah. So his head is like a purse, and he eats money. It's great.
If I have that nightmare tonight, I'm going to call you.
I'll send pictures of toys. It'll be great.
So, and he certainly is a Star Wars fan. We talked about Thundar.
Herculoids. It was Herculoids too. That was the other one.
Yep.
Herculoids is the jam.
But all this, one of the beautiful things about Richard is all these things that are fun and seemingly innocuous. The idea is
They're pretty innocuous.
Well, no, because underneath of it all, there's a story. Underneath of it all is this thing that goes from A to B to C to Z, and that's what drives Richard. Is there's this thing, and it's regardless of how bright and shiny and flashy and potentially odd that it is, underneath of it all, there is a reason, there is a story, there is this thing that makes it happen. And whether it's beer or civil rights or comic book heroes or comic book villains, there's this story. And that's the thing I really enjoy about you, Richard, is that you see the things that everybody else sees, but you are more interested about what is underneath. And you're not afraid to dig to that second, third, fourth, fifth level to get at the why. And so that's one of the things that I've come to really appreciate about you and the things that you do is you are concerned with the why. You want to find out the why. And once you find it, you want to let everybody else know. And I find that to be beautiful. And it's something that is needed in this world. And I appreciate you for that.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And
so
I respect the hell out of you. I really do.
Thank you.
I'm not very wordy in that way, but yeah, I respect the hell out of you. I appreciate it.
So
and we can talk Dr. Doom anytime.
Cheers. Cheers to you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks,
thank you for all you're doing, and I'm certain we'll catch a beer very soon.
So. We will. We'll talk soon. Thanks, man. Take care.
Cheers, brother. Bye.
Yeah. Laters.